Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha, where she was also an entrepreneur. She was a business, she conducted business, but she did so through men. She wasn't herself actually going out and trading herself. Like, for example, we know she hired Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do that for her. So that's, I think for a certain at a certain point you do need, I think, men on your team, basically doing certain things for you. Basically, I don't think, I really don't agree that women can do it all necessarily by themselves.
Narrative that's being pushed forward now, but I disagree with it, because you need both kind of genders in the business.
Yeah.
And you have to keep Deen and its principles within the business, because without that you're going to fall.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings to you all, and welcome to Niqabi Bloggers Community. Today we're sitting here as QA'QAA with Hareem Zahid from Abaa Co. First, Hareem, how would you introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm basically a mom, first a wife, and also an entrepreneur. If you want me to talk about only the entrepreneur aspect, so I would say that now it has become slightly a little part of me as compared to what it was when I started, because obviously you need to put a lot of time in the start. I'm able to manage being a mother and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that actually. So you, mashallah, Allah Mubarak, as a mother, are also running this business. So how do you kind of manage your time with that? How do you deal with, I think you brought this up in a different interview, kind of like the mom guilt that sometimes comes up. How do you manage those two separate roles?
So you see, being a creative person, most creative people struggle with disciplining themselves, and they are much more impulsive when it comes to creativity. So they just want to go with, the ideas here, and you just get into it and jump into it and start doing on it. So I think with the time span of 10 years that I've been into this field, wow, I have learned that I need to schedule my creativity as well. So I have scheduled hours in the morning when my son is either asleep or he's into school. Mm-hmm. So then I focus on my work. And when he comes back, I don't have any time for creativity, to be very honest, because, being a mother is very chaotic. You don't
Yes, it is definitely chaotic. That's exactly the right word. Well, mashallah. So 10 years ago. So how would you say it first started? Like, what would you say your origin story is?
When I started observing abaya, I did not find, I think this is the story of every abaya entrepreneur, modest entrepreneur, that they did not find any good design, so they started creating themselves. So I remember the first abaya I made was in school when I was in 10th grade, and it had a hoodie on it. And that abaya got famous because of the hoodie and all of the style, and everybody used to come to me and ask me, where did you get it from? Can we get it as a sample? We need to get it stitched, or can you make it for us? So that's how it started. So my passion for flowy gowns translated into abaya. I was wearing it on and off at that time, and then I also started to design modest wear maxi dresses and all of that at weddings. And then I got into university while I was also beginning my niqab journey. So I realized that I had no aspirations for a corporate career, and I was very focused into getting into entrepreneurship, but there was absolutely no history in my family for entrepreneurship or business, and especially not for a woman.
Right. So I wanted to ask you about this, like being a woman and being an entrepreneur in a country like Pakistan. How has that been for you? What would you say? Because in the Western world, we have a bit of a misconception, I would say. Maybe there is some level of oppression. There's a lack of freedom. Do you think there's any truth to that? What do you think?
In Pakistan or India, countries like ours, now the times have changed, but back when I started, or even before that, people are usually a little bit skeptical about exploring new things. It's not just related to women, it's just, they're skeptical about. So with me, the idea of business was not something that was difficult, but the idea of me doing a business as a woman was not that kind of a thing. But doing it itself was a very risky thing at that point in time, because even men did not pursue it. They felt safer in their jobs. And I think it's the phenomena everywhere in the world. People have preferred jobs because it's safer and much more, low risk.
So the barriers that you kind of had to face, basically, you would say they were just, they were barriers that would be similar to any other entrepreneur, where you have to have that risk-taking mindset. Not so much, you don't think there were too many barriers as a woman in particular? Is that correct to assume?
Not in my family. Obviously, the tag of woman comes with its own, boundaries. Mm-hmm. There is always much easier chance for men to get into business from the family's perspective.
Right.
For women, it's a little hard, but it wasn't that hard.
So now, mashallah, you are doing a clothing business, right? How do you fight the urge to, for example, include music into advertisements, right? Because music is everywhere, but you're trying to obviously make sure that you're doing everything in the halal way, in the best way possible. How do you fight those whispers of shaitan, basically, that tell you, oh, if you do it this way, you'll be more successful. Oh, if you just include music, if you just include girls that wear maybe that expose more of themselves, that would be more beneficial. How do you fight those?
It's definitely a big struggle because, with the growing and changing algorithm on Instagram and all of these platforms, it's getting difficult. However, thanks to all the halal nasheed industry and all of people who are working, use music free, instrument free audios. Even if I'm tempted to, I once shared it on my blog as well, that whenever I'm tempted to use music, I just use the tools that are on Google, which can separate music and audio from in the instruments, vocals from the instrument. So this works. I often use that kind of thing. It's halal in that way.
Right.
If your niyyah is, Allah Ta'ala makes ways for you. If your niyyah is not clear and it's ambiguous and you're confused about your own identity and about your own values, then you might end up using things. And with the women aspect, we're using models who are revealing. A lot of hijab brands are using models which are covered but are not covered. I've been consistently trying to use models in a way that, when I'm walking on the road, I look like the same model I'm using. So it has to be realistic. You just need to put in your efforts, and risk come from Allah Ta'ala. Because once in a time when I was into black abayas only, but with time I realized people have levels of hijab. They're all struggling. But I'm promoting people with black abayas to come down and I'm talking about the understood aspect of taqwa in our country, especially that black is the highest taqwa kind of a thing. So I'm talking from that perspective. So I'm not promoting the black abaya wearers to come down and step down and, start wearing colored abayas. I am just giving it as an option to those who are struggling to go to black and would appreciate a colored abaya and make it easy for them. If I make it or not, they're going to, either give up on the idea of abaya or maybe find it from somewhere else. So why not take part in the sawab and also in the opportunity of business? Both are there. I'm not doing it just for the sawab aspect. I'm also doing it to cater to a bigger market in the modest fashion industry, because I think people need those options and not everybody is on the same level. I myself wear black abayas strictly for a certain audience, and for a certain audience I don't wear a black abaya. Like right now, I felt much comfortable in a colored scarf, for example.
Myself as well, honestly. Like right now, the way that I'm dressed right now in front of, for example, like an audience that's going to be watching this on YouTube possibly and accessible to absolutely anyone, this isn't how I dress every single day, even when I go out. It does change. You're right. Everybody is on a journey. And I think the fact that you have that mindset of promoting, I really love that. That was really beautiful. Allahumma barak. May Allah place so much barakah in your business. Like that idea of you're not trying to bring anyone down in levels of piety per se. You're just trying to have that motivational, basically, impact on maybe a sister who's just wearing hijab right now. Maybe she'll find a more modest abaya that she likes in her favorite color, maybe, and maybe you could be the reason that she starts wearing an abaya. And slowly, like, you know, you're right, it is definitely a journey with hijab, and you can't expect really it to be a 0 to 100 kind of thing. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That was very insightful.
I wanted to add one more thing. So there's this advent dresses, floral maxi dresses these days, and especially when people are traveling, they pick the dresses instead of abayas. Some of the people are going for immodest dresses that are available in the market very easily. So the idea behind that kind of floral line was that so that people could still dress up modestly even if they're going abroad, and, you know, feel good about themselves, because sadly the vacationing part has now become more of a photo.
Yes. Yes. An outfit opportunity to basically flaunt outfits in a way. Yes, that's true.
Posting it on in the social media, and not just self-pleasure. So I think that was the aspect which I wanted to provide for the audience.
No, that makes a lot of sense, actually. You're 100% right. I think we do need to fill in the gap, so to say, where you're providing each level of modesty, I think, so that it's always possible for someone when they're faced with, okay, if, for example, this girl is going to wear a dress, right? You would rather have her wear a more modest dress, maybe that doesn't have a belt along her waist, so that waist is not being defined. So there is, I think, that room for constant, a little bit more hayaa, kind of like something a little bit more modest. You want to always be providing that. So that's a really wonderful thing.
You see, if a girl has experienced complete hayaa in her attire once, or I'm talking about the majority of the people, not the minority. So if a girl has experienced that, she will remember that experience. Yes. And whenever she dresses immodestly, she's also going to remember that she's uncomfortable with her legs exposed and, you know, with wearing sleeveless dresses. She will remember the modest experience she had wearing that dress, even though she dresses in a modest or in immodest dresses alternatively. She's not very regular with one kind of dressing. So the experience we fashion designers can provide to these girls can motivate them, and, you know, bring a inner voice kind in a voice kind of way that they know they feel comfortable in this manner. I know a Christian person who says she wears a bar when she goes to markets in Pakistan. Wow. So I was very shocked when I heard that, because I was like, okay, so even the Fitra knows that this is closer to hayaa and can protect her. Even though I'm not going to argue that hijab is the only thing that protects you, obviously.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, but I was very shocked to hear about that. And I was very impressed that the Fitra is not dead for so many people as we think it does.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, that's true. I think you don't want to have such a pessimistic view either, right, of the world, because I think sometimes we fall into that. I think mostly everyone has very good intentions, and mostly everyone is on a journey of improvement. So, and the fact that even, subhanAllah, somebody who doesn't really believe in Islam can appreciate and experience some of the beauty of hayaa through wearing an abaya, that's, mashallah, that's really inspiring. Honestly, that's very inspiring, mashallah. So speaking a little bit more about your product, have people ever complained, for example, like maybe the products are too expensive? Has that ever been an issue? How do you make it make sense for your customers?
You see, there are many kinds of brands in the market, and they are tapping into multiple kinds of classes. In Pakistan, majority class is the lower middle class, and, you know, even the lower class. But I was very particular about quality. Okay. I was really which focused on quality a lot. The
Mhm.
dresses anything we bought, we focused on the quality. So this is a personality type that I have, that I cannot compromise on quality. And when you cannot compromise on quality, you cannot do anything about the price, right?
Right, you
So
can't.
even though I am using fabrics and stitching units that are expensive for me,
Mhm.
even though I might come across as expensive to the lower middle class,
Mhm.
but the class that buys from me knows that my products are very underpriced for them, because similar brands like mine are selling the same thing at a much higher price. So I know that I am actually underpriced as per the target market I am focusing on.
Right.
However,
Oh.
I don't want to, I know everybody has their own costs. And I believe that with business, with expertise in business, you need to learn to know how to cut your costs and also be fair to the way, people who are working in your business. So there has to be a balance, and it comes with time. You don't, it's easy to charge low for products and then, end up with a low quality product from your end. People, when they start, they make good quality and charge low for that product, and when they start getting into the business properly, they realize that it's not feasible for them to continue with that quality, so they step down on the quality and do that. Sometimes some people grow in their price range to charge what is fair. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So I think it's like something you said is basically about knowing your audience, right? And catering to a certain audience. It's not necessarily, maybe it's not meant for everyone, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You know your audience, you know your audience prefers quality over sometimes even overlooking the price, and they actually even think that the price is actually marked low, because you're right, quality is hard to come by. So then when you do come by it, and especially with modest wear, with abayas and hijabs and dresses and stuff, it's kind of worth spending a little bit money on, because you know you're getting your money's worth. You mentioned, like, obviously most people in Pakistan are with the lower middle class, right? Since that's the norm over here. Do you think that entrepreneurship is a better option compared to jobs, since job salaries nowadays in Pakistan are very difficult to make do with, actually?
Definitely, I think with this age and the times we are in, entrepreneurship is the way ahead. I'm not going to say jobs should be quit by everyone. No, because jobs are the things that are getting the business going.
Right.
So some people, I think it's the temperament of the person who is involved in this scenario. Some people are do and pursue jobs, and some people are more prone towards business, and some people can do both. I know a lot of people who are doing both.
Wow.
So I think it's because everybody needs a little extra money, given the inflation that's going on in Pakistan, and more has to since the global recession is descending upon us. But if somebody wants to pursue business, I think now's the time. There's a boom going on in the economy in terms of business, but you have to bring your difference making to the table. You don't have to just do what everybody else is doing. You need to offer some differentiation, and that's where it's going to work for you.
Yeah,
So
this
you
is
have to.
actually going to be my next question for you, actually. I wanted to ask then, like, since what would be your best advice actually to somebody who's maybe thinking of starting their own business?
I know a lot of big businesses who have completely changed their USPs, and the way they started and now what they're doing is entirely different. So it's about not giving up. Even I started that way, and I never thought that I'm going to get into so many lines. But now, alhamdulillah, my brand has a lot of lines. It caters to a lot of people, whether hijabis, non-hijabis, or aspiring hijabis. Even
Right.
if they don't have hijab, I'm trying to make a clothing that they can wear, which can, give them just some extra coverage.
That's good.
That's the
I think if you're playing like a helping role along those different levels of modesty, basically, then that's a wonderful thing, mashallah. So you kind of mentioned about not giving up, right? As advice. What helped you not give up? Like, what kept you going throughout this journey? Because 10 years, mashallah, Allahumma barik, that's a long time to stay firm with a business. So how did you do it?
I have actually taken it as a hobby first and as a business later. But then later, when people got involved into the business, like proper employees and team members, I had to keep running it for them. There was a time, I think in 2019 or 18, when I wanted to shut it down because of any personal issues. But I let it continue and keep on going with whatever number of orders that was coming in, because I had a team member who was juggling with 2 jobs and was in need of money. And also my tailoring team, they were entirely working for me. So, at least a lot of people's household income was being derived from my business. So I said, I'm not going to get, actually during COVID, I did not, focus so much on the business, because I knew people were not buying at that time and they weren't actually buying. So I let the business stay afloat on its own, and whatever was coming, my team was able to derive out some money from it. So I wanted to support them. So those were the times when I didn't feel like doing it myself, but I let it happen for the people who were involved.
That's amazing. Actually, what you're talking about is some serious leadership skills, actually. It's a bit of a sacrifice. Like, you have a responsibility now as an entrepreneur to not just provide for yourself. You can still, like, adjust your spendings and stuff, but what about the people under your care, under your business's care, the employees that you have? So mashallah, that's something honestly I didn't think about at all. So that's very really amazing, mashallah, really amazing.
And one more
thing
that when I started the business, I never ever did it for the sake of money. But after 2020, when I realized that I could build this business properly and take it to another level, started focusing on making it sustainable for myself as well. Because, working in something and you're not taking out any salaries or anything for yourself, there comes a point when you're indifferent about it and you're like, let's just give it up and do something else. But with the people, team members and employees in the business, you have to take a certain kind of responsibility. And when you start to see that, okay, I'm not saying that taking on financial independence for women is a bad thing. It's a good thing, actually. But I never benefit of it for at least years in the business.
Right.
But after I started to realize, then why not? Because I'm working so hard, I deserve it.
No, that's true, 100%.
So my focus, when it was not on money, it was always on the product. People start with a focus on money. I think the start of the business could use a different focus other than money, because it comes after sometimes. It doesn't come immediately for most people.
Right.
So you have to get disheartened, and with that, that will help you to stay longer in the business.
No, that's amazing, mashallah. I like how you said that, actually. That's really incredible. So in closing, the one thing I want to ask you is, so your experience as mashallah Barak, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, living in a Muslim country, thriving, I would say, in a Muslim country, what would your message be to maybe Muslims in the Western world that are concerned about job opportunities? Because that's the #1 complaint you hear. Especially when people think about Pakistan, they say, oh, the job opportunities just don't exist and it's hard to make money there, it's hard to survive. What is your advice to those people, maybe who are being held back by living in an Islamic environment just because of fear of a lack of risk, basically, over here? What would you say?
I think for people who live abroad, it's a sad reality for us Pakistanis that our mannerism and values are, not on the same level as our deen suggests. While the people who live abroad are exposed to much more sophisticated kind of environment. So when they come here, they experience, a lot of lies and deception in the business industry, in the job industry. People are not very honest in the jobs. Even in business, you get to I'm going to say it in Urdu, but बहुत धोखे मिलते हैं आपको.
You get cheated often, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to say people are cheaters over here, but people are so they're living in such that, yes, they're very desperate, and they're living in conditions that their lives are not happy. So they end up harming others. That's the only thing in Pakistan that's going to hurt your business. Otherwise, I think it's the easiest to do business in Pakistan as compared to the rest of the world, because there are so many conditions and rules. In Pakistan, it's an open field right now. There are not a lot of rules that have been made for entrepreneurship. So once you learn and get trained with dealing with people, you do take benefit of the opportunity of business. But it takes time for people who live abroad and are settling back here, because there's a major shift in approach to life and people around.
So how did you tackle that then? As because Allahumma barik, you have a successful. How did you tackle this specific like being cheated? How did you have to be maybe more firm with certain things? How did you do it?
I'm going to say that I got lucky, alhamdulillah, that my family supported me in the start. So my father was actually handling all the operation related in the business. So you see, as a woman in business, you need someone. You need a male figure in the business.
Yes.
Whether it's your
when you mentioned basically having your father do these trips to the market, almost it reminded me actually of Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha, where she was also an entrepreneur. She was she conducted business, but she did so through men. She wasn't herself actually going out and trading herself. Like, for example, we know she hired Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do that for her. So that's I think for a certain at a certain point you do need, I think, men on your team basically doing certain things for you. Basically, I don't think I really don't agree that women can do it all necessarily by themselves. What do you think?
That's the narrative that's being pushed forward now, but I disagree with it, because you need both kind of genders in the business. And you have to keep deen and its principles within the business, because without that you're going to fall. You're either going to, a lot of women do business alone, and they do end up facing a lot of harsh realities of life that they shouldn't be facing, and their men should be covering up. But and not everybody is so privileged to have support. Some people don't have, people have them, but they're much more busier in their own schedule, so they're not able to give time. Or some generally don't support women. So I was lucky in that manner that I had my husband. I met my father first, and then my husband later when I got married. So they covered me up in the harsher aspects of the business, which could expose me to things in the market that I might have been haunted from later on. So having a male figure, or it's not a mahram, you get yourself covered up, but you need to take care of the Islamic boundaries that are there, and without that, you'll end up hurting yourself.
Definitely, mashallah. Just in closing, this is the last thing I wanted to ask you. Have you yourself, would you say, experienced the baraka basically from running a business in a way that is pleasing to Allah, trying to do so every step of the way, whether it's with the marketing, whether it's with your products, whether it's your mindset? Have you experienced special baraka and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Yes, alhamdulillah. Especially business itself has baraka in it as compared to a salaried position. And then you're doing business for modest products, which is enabling people. Basically, if you see the niyyah behind doing a modest fashion related business was that we need to give dawah to people. In dawah can be done in multiple ways. That niyyah of dawah combining with the original baraka of the business definitely puts you in a much more favorable position. And I would say that baraka is not just about money. Baraka is also about, gaining the respect, the du'as of the customer. So I feel very honored when I have people who buy from me and then wear those abayas and then go do Hajj and Umrah. And they're making dua. wearing that abaya.
That's
They're looking at it and
beautiful. That is so beautiful, subhanAllah. I can only imagine.
a part of me and my effort in my niyyah is traveling with the person every time they're going. So I think that's the luckiest thing and the most blessed kind of blessing that you could have in your life. And I
Right.
feel, and that's the one reason I don't think about giving up on my business ever, because I would miss out on a lot of blessings in that manner.
MashaAllah, Allahumma barak. I love that. I love that perspective so much. All right, Jazakallah khair so much for your time, Hareem. I learned so much, and I'm sure the viewers will be learning a lot too from you. Thank you so much for this. Really, I appreciate all of your insights, all of your advice. MashaAllah, there's a lot to learn. And may Allah continue to bless your business, bless your home, bless your family. May He increase you in all that is beloved to Him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.